Hello, this is Torn at Connect the Political Dots. Just got finished watching the Republican debates tonight, and I found them very interesting. Interesting for a number of reasons, but on this particular vlog, I'm just going to talk about Donald Trump. At least I'm going to try to. Donald Trump is running in the Republican primary. I think he's not quite aware of that, but he's running in the Republican primary. And let me tell you why I emphasize Republican primary. There's going to be 5 points I'm going to make here. 4 of them are going to be about why he's running in the Republican primary, and the 5th is going to be about Donald Trump. Point number 1, fraud, waste, and abuse. The quintessential liberal line when asking why there's a deficit and a debt. What they're going to cut in government. We're not going to cut anything. We're just going to take care of fraud, waste, and abuse. We're going to keep the structure in. All the liberal programs that are bleeding money, we're not going to fix them. We're not going to change them. There's going to be no fundamental change. What we're going to do is we're going to go in there and we're going to find the fraud, waste, and abuse, and we're going to cut it out. Every liberal says. Why? Because they want the government to expand. They want it to grow. That's what liberals say. That's what Donald Trump said. Fraud, waste, and abuse. And when confronted with the numbers of what that supposedly would do, Donald Trump didn't say, oh, well, I cut this to stop that. No. Fraud, waste, and abuse. He should be on the stage next to Hillary and Bernie. But that's just one point. That's just one point. The next point is going to be, oh my God, Israel. Let's talk about Israel. Donald Trump said that he was the biggest supporter of Israel on that stage. And to prove that he was the biggest supporter of Israel, he brought up the fact that he was Grand Marshal or sponsor of a parade for Israelis. That is what Donald Trump believes is support for Israel. I guess he believes the Trump name is so powerful that having his name be a part of an Israeli parade is support. Let me tell you, he also says that Netanyahu should be looked at in the same light as the Palestinians when it comes to negotiations. So our strongest ally in the region, the only democracy in the region, is going to be put on the same playing field as an organization that teams up with Hamas, bombs Israel relentlessly, and just recently sponsored the killing of an American citizen in Israel. They're going to be negotiated with like they're equals. Donald, let me tell you this, and you need to learn this. You lived in New York too long, okay? New York Jews and Israelis are two different species. They're not the same. Don't think they are. Don't think they are. Again, you sound like Hillary and Obama when talking about Israel. You don't sound like a conservative. You don't sound like Israel is our ally. Point number 2. Point number 3, I'm going to talk about the trade deficit. You bring up the trade deficit like you're the only one that can fix it. You can do this because you're going to take care of the companies. You can go after the companies that are leaving this country. Ted Cruz rightfully brought out the fact that the root cause of them leaving the country is tax policy. Fixing the tax policy changes the trade deficit to a trade surplus. Drop from 35 to 16%. Bring American business back here. You don't bring American business back here by adding a tariff that totally, completely, and utterly hurts the American people because they're paying that tariff. The company's not going to start selling things at a loss. They can't. They go out of business. They have to make a profit. How do they make a profit? When you're charging them a 45% tax, they tax the consumer 45%. This is economics 101. For such a great businessman, you have absolutely zero acumen when it comes to the American economy and how it works. Again, you sound like a liberal. Sound like you should be on the stage with Bernie and Hillary. But what takes the cake is your response to the question about Tiananmen Square. Now, you got to stay with me on this one. I'm going to try to be as quick as possible and as clear as possible. But this one is the kicker. Donald Trump praised the Chinese government and their strength for clearing Tiananmen Square of those rioters. The rioters were pro-democracy Chinese students and parents that had actually erected a replica of the Statue of Liberty to show their reverence for the United States. The Chinese government mowed them down in the streets, came with tanks and killed Chinese citizens to show them and to put them down, to put democracy and the fight for democracy down in China. And Donald Trump praises the strength of the Chinese government for doing so. Think about that for a second. But a lot of people like to take one thing and say, oh, well, he didn't mean that. Well, let's take a couple more things. Take Tiananmen Square and how he praised the Chinese government for their strength. Take the fact that he praised Vladimir Putin for his strength and leadership. Couple that with the pledge that he wanted his people to give him for their vote, and him getting on national television during the debate and telling the American military that they're going to do as he says, regardless of what the law is. He's talking about law now. But he said on that stage, even though it was illegal, they're going to do what I tell them to do. Does that sound like a tyrant to you? Now, I know you don't want to believe it. I know Donald Trump's your guy. He's not a tyrant. He really wouldn't do that. But how many things would Donald Trump not really do? How many excuses do you have to make for Donald Trump? How many interpretations of what he really meant do you have to make to still support this guy? I don't understand it. I really don't. It is becoming more and more confusing to me that Donald Trump has support in the Republican primary when he is telling you that he is a tyrant. But if that doesn't get it, maybe this will. Donald Trump was very tempered tonight. Very tempered. He was presidential. He didn't call Ted Cruz a liar, liar, liar. He didn't call little Marco. He didn't do any of that tonight. And he didn't do it because his handlers have been telling him, look, dude, you can't do that stuff. You have got to act more presidential. This is the way you have to act. This is what you've got to do. This is how you have to be and be seen by the American people. Is Donald Trump becoming politically correct? Is the biggest fighter of political correctness now giving up that political correctness so he can be president? Is he doing it for you? Is he doing it for you, the Donald Trump supporter? Do you appreciate the fact that he's acting more presidential? Are you appreciating the fact that he's giving in to political correctness? Well, let me tell you something. Besides being a tyrant and a liberal, Donald Trump just sold every one of his supporters out.